So I just came back from a 3-day weekend and I had a great time. It was a nice way to spend some time off. However, it got me thinking about three things. Over the weekend, I saw The Mandalorian, I watched clips from the Enhanced Games, and I was rewatching clips from the Olympics with Alysa Liu. On its face, I understand these things don't have a lot in common, but allow me to explain because I think it's telling a larger story about how we feel about sports, how we feel about our bodies, and where we are kind of as a society. Now, a lot of us already know the story of Alysa Liu. She won the gold for Olympic skating this year at the Winter Olympics, but that was only after she had made it to the Olympics 4 years ago, retired for 2 years, rediscovered her passion for the art, and then came back on her own terms and performed one of the most liberating and joyfully impressive numbers that we had ever seen at the Olympics. She went from having a father that created a ton of pressure around her success to being able to be liberated from all of those things and just showing off her passion, style, and talent. In her own way, she is embodying the essence of breaking out of conformity and embracing the art that you love. In her mind, she doesn't have to worry about the pressures of competing because she's not. We are not there to judge her performance. We're there to experience her art with her. That's just really rare and really magical, and I think it truly defines what good sport really is. Sure, it's a competition, but it also has to mean something to you. You have to be driven by something that's not just wanting to be the best, because otherwise you're just gonna go crazy. I feel like Alysa stands out so much because more and more in society, it's about fitting into the boxes that society wants you to be in. And just as a little tangent, those who understand the real bodybuilding history will know who Bob Paris is. Just a quick tangent, Bob Paris was a very famous bodybuilder in the 1980s. He was at the top of his game, and he was basically in line to be the next Hollywood star, following the footsteps of Schwarzenegger and Lou Ferrigno. And what made Bob Paris stand out was that he wasn't interested in being the largest on the stage. He wasn't worried about building as much muscle as possible. He was aiming to be as aesthetic as he possibly could because he wanted to look how he envisioned himself to be. And let me tell you, the judges ate that shit up. However, when it came time to sign the contracts to get him into larger media spaces, Bob knew that there was going to be a lot of tension because he knew that he was super gay. So, in 1989, Bob Paris publicly came out. And immediately after doing this, he lost a huge percentage of his booking. So, Bobby over here retired in 1991 and became an advocate for gay rights. I do think these stories have a lot in common because they're about rejecting the spaces that are requiring you to conform into doing what everyone else does. You know, there's different trajectories with these careers, but the mindset of each is the exact same. They are equally brave and equally as impressive for doing what they do. But that's just, you know, a tangent. What I really want to do is talk about the Enhanced Games. More importantly, James Magnussen. So the Enhanced Games happened over the weekend, and to be honest, it was a complete mess. The live stream was inconsistent and laggy. The whole event looked incredibly cheap. And most importantly, all the enhanced athletes did dog shit numbers. James here, a swimmer, claimed that he was gonna juice to the gills and beat every record except he didn't. In fact, he actually lost all of his events to natural athletes. A truly embarrassing display of hubris, if you ask me. The whole event was basically sponsored by tech bros who make it their entire life's project to disrupt industry and experiment with PEDs. And I think what they really wanted this to be was validation for their constant and absurd obsession with transhumanism and pushing the human body to its absolute extremes. That's not what happened, and it kind of proved the opposite. Also, not that this fucking matters, but Brian Johnson, who I've complained with on this channel before, he was there, and I just get so frustrated when he becomes the face of anything because if you look at what he's been doing, it's clearly not working. The man has no charisma, the man has weird skin now, and frankly, he's become sort of a recluse, hiding under umbrellas and basically living in fear of the conditions of life. And you know what really just grinds my gears is that there are conspiracy theories out there where people believe that Hillary Clinton is drinking the blood of babies. Meanwhile, this fucking loser has injected his own son's blood into his body because he believed it would make him younger. It's just like, you're so close. You're not even trying to create a good conspiracy. You're not even trying to connect the dots. You're just saying stuff. Anyway, the enhanced games. Teemu Olympics over here managed to break so few world records that the only way you can really describe the events that happened were just mediocre. And when you think about it for more than a second, this makes a lot of sense because having the most muscle is not the determining factor for who's the best at sports. We watch sports because of the skill, because of the talent, because of the stories that are created from it. And I do think there's a proper discussion to be had about the Olympics with juicing or doping or having a freakish genetic advantage, but clearly the answer is not to juice more. If Peter Thiel, one of the richest mans in the world, can't muster up enough finances to fund his own games to prove all of his points that steroids are the coolest, then no one's going to be able to, and it's probably not a good argument to begin with. Something about me is that I used to swim competitively, and something about James Magnuson is that he was never going to do well. I can tell you right now, having back muscles that you can see from the front may look cool, but it is going to severely limit your ability to stretch and reach for as much water to grab as possible. And if you can't grab that much water, then you're going to be moving more. And if you're moving more, you're getting exhausted faster and you're going to have a slower time. Juicing to the gills was never going to work out for this man because he doesn't have enough skill to adapt his body to the medium. And on top of that, he no longer has the kind of body that is meant to benefit from that type of sport. Also, I noticed during the enhancement games that they only did very isolated single-person events. There were no actual collaborative sports, no baseball, no volleyball, no curling. They purposefully didn't include anything that requires skill or talent. They only included the things that only involve strength. So they thought. I think what the people were expecting was an event of superhuman achievement, a bunch of super soldiers coming in to show everyone else that they're weak and stupid for following regulations and rules of the past. But instead, everyone involved looked like a naive amateur void of passion. There's no real humanity here, just a collection of images that we're going to forget about in a few months because something more interesting is going to come along. And speaking of that, let's talk about The Mandalorian. Without going into spoilers, I was genuinely shocked at how few people are in this movie. And I'm not talking about characters, I'm talking about people. The movie is entertaining enough, I'm not gonna knock it for that, but 90% of it is just CGI slugs, puppets, and voiceover of a guy in a helmet. On top of that, you can tell all the scenes with actual actors were filmed in the tiniest soundstage because there's no movement, and most of the scenes consist of all the actors sitting around and talking. I think a lot of people were excited to see this movie because of its use of puppets and how it seems like it's leaning less into what Star Wars has done in the past, which is just a lot of CGI nonsense. But the thing about puppets is that they come to life when they're interacting with something real. You know, every Muppets special out there has an anchor with an actor or an actress playing off of them. Nearly every single piece of puppet media has a real person next to them, adding a sort of realism to the circumstance. Again, this movie isn't bad, and every single puppet involved is incredibly endearing, but it does lack substance. Cynically, I would believe that this is Disney's attempt to make a movie that has as few actors as possible so they can just create a conveyor belt of merchandise. You know, they don't even have to create a character or get an actor's likeness involved for the parks. They can just put someone in a suit, sell the toys, sell the costumes, call it a day, make it a show. I don't want to believe that, but it is kind of a movie that looks like its entire purpose is to be created out of merch. And because of that, I don't think it's a coincidence that a Star Wars movie that could have been an email is underperforming against a low-budget horror movie that has something to say regarding our feelings of loneliness and wanting to be loved. What I mean by all of this is that what I'm noticing this year is people's thirst for feelings of humanity, because it feels like there are so many institutions out there that are trying to take it away. People are desperate to watch someone with skill. They don't want a glossy AI image. They want a fun vibe. They want to watch someone do something with passion, and they want to be able to connect with things because there's less and less opportunity for people to do that every day. But anyway, that's my spiel. I went down a lot of different tangents, so let me know what you think in the comment section below. But have a wonderful rest of your day. Be safe out there, and I will see you next time.